Hello, Happier Lives Tribe. I am so excited. Amanda Foy will be joining me just in a few moments here for an interview um, where I get to ask her all of my and your questions that came in yesterday about cellular memory, about emotional strength training, about how energy work can help us to have a happier life and how it complements all the efforts that you're already putting in. So here she is. Let's see if we can add successfully. We had good luck with this on our test run. So there she is, the beautiful Amanda Foy. Oh, there goes my camera. Guess I was too excited to see your beautiful face on here. Um,
Oh, thank you. Mine's weird too.
so I'm just going to share this out. I want the whole world to hear what you have to say. I'm so excited about what we have on tap for our viewers tonight.
Oh, I'm going to share it too, and I've just got to turn that off there. There we go.
Perfect. Boom. And so those of you that are catching the replay or joining us live, we'd love to have you say hello. Please share in the comments where in the world you're watching us from. I know I'm in Connecticut on the East Coast of the United States, and Amanda is all the way over in Australia. So technology is making the world a smaller place, isn't it?
It is. I've left my kangaroos and koalas and crocodiles out the back.
And we have Tracy from Colorado. I see lots of people hopping
Oh,
on. This is very exciting.
oh,
And also,
Tracy Lawson. Oh, I know Tracy. She's gorgeous. She's one of my favorite humans.
fantastic. So Tracy, do you have any questions that you'd like to add to tonight's thread for what is emotional strength training, or any comments? If you know Amanda, you probably can speak to how amazing her work is. We're glad to have you here.
It's interesting. We've got a couple of my favorite men from over here as well. They're not business women, but they're good for watching and supporting. I love them.
Amazing. Well, Happier Lives, it's my intention for starting this Happier Lives page and bringing experts such as yourself to really highlight that Happier Lives is not something that's out of reach for anyone. Whatever your circumstances are right now, whatever your gender, whatever your race, whatever your age, whatever your income status, there's so much power in taking responsibility for deciding I want more in life, and recognizing that wherever you're starting from, it's so much faster if you know where you're starting from and where you want to go, so that we can stop spinning our wheels in shiny object syndromes of trying to go get what it looks like makes everybody else happy, because happy is an inside job and it's so personal and unique to each person. So I know, just a quick introduction for those of you that might know me. My name is Bethany Perry. I am a master coach and transformation catalyst. I basically introduce people to the next level version of themselves and support them in getting into that as a reality. And Amanda, you have been such a huge support in my own transformation and up-leveling over the past few years. I'm super excited to have you. I actually, for those of you that don't know, bonus, for those of you in my mastermind programs, Amanda is coming on to work with my VIP clients and support the whole process in the group energy space. And I'm just so excited about how your work absolutely complements and I just see people, I just love it. I get flustered when I get so excited about your work. But I'd love for you to share with the world, answer the question, what is emotional strength training?
Emotional strength training is a combination of like a type of counseling, neurological concepts, and then energy therapies. So it's a unique process that I've developed over the last 9 years, and I've been living this way myself for the last 33 years. I have a concept that I live by called the Trio of Health, And also another thing that I've built and am trying to, it's my life purpose to help people understand the anatomy of awareness. So we operate in life the only way we know how, with what we have. Everybody is the same. And, you know, we're born into families and we live in it, have experiences. And the foundation of this work is that trauma means different things to different people. So there's no right or wrong about what trauma looks like. And what happens is when you have a life experience, that memory finds somewhere to live in your body, and it lives in the cells of our energy system as well as our physical system. So emotional strength training is essentially the concept people bring into their lives when they're stuck, they're at a crossroads, they can't get out of their own head, they don't know what to do next. It's one of the most common sentences, which I made peace with for a long time ago, is, I've tried everything and nothing's working. I don't know what to do. So because they don't know or understand what it is, but somebody has said to them, oh, I don't know what she does, you just got to work with Amanda Foy. That's essentially how my business is being built. But also I want to be the global voice of the emotional immune system. I live, breathe, and stand in my truth that trauma creates illness. And illness can also be defined with, you know, people in doing their bit, trying to find their passion and purpose, or they've built a business, or they're in their career, and self-sabotage comes in, or they're attracting the dodgiest people in their life all the time. There's patterns and they just can't seem to get to the next level. So it goes all the way through from those sort of life situations to, you know, chronic illness, and then up to things like autoimmune diseases and cancer and all those sorts of things, like skin rashes, anxiety, depression, insomnia, sore teeth and jaws, all those sorts of things. There's always a foundation of trauma associated, and that's the gift that I have. That's the energy therapy. I can see that trauma stuck in your body. So then I do an energy session, like, and I have clients all over the world. So you don't have to be physically present. I don't have to touch you. You don't have to talk your story anymore. You don't have to keep repeating the story. And I find the patterns and join the dots as to why you're feeling the way you do. Speak it to you, vibrates in your ears. Sometimes there's ugly snot crying, and sometimes there's massive ahas, and then it just leaves. Everything I speak leaves. So then the end result of emotional strength training is you have a greater capacity to handle life when it shows up. You're not frightened of the things anymore. You have the capacity to step forward in your life. And how it supports your work is that people invest a lot of money in their personal development, and the quantity of people who don't actually come out the other side getting what they want is because their body is stuck with all of these blocks. So that's why when you said to me, would you come and work with me and my clients? You know how you get all flustered? I'm like, how do I say yes? Because it's like evolved coaches know that there's some underlying currents that prevent their clients from getting to where they want to get. And it's just that, you know, I have this process of it takes a village, or a belief system that takes a village to raise a child. So when you're in your point of genius, I can come in and do my thing, clear out the mank. Everybody listens more, they can implement more, and then, oh, I'm so happy I did this with Bethany, because I can come in, do my bit, and off you go. And that's essentially what it is.
Yes. And I do get so excited. I see so many people hopping on. Samantha's here. Michelle is here. Oh, thank you for the hearts. And Mandy, you shared this out. Thank you. We appreciate that. For anyone else that's watching, please feel free, again, let us know you're here. We love seeing your faces pop up across the screen. And I want to speak to actually like how much resistance I had about energy work. Like what the gift that you bring to the world, Amanda. I know I'm such a science background. I have a degree in sports medicine. So where I started in my career was understanding anatomy and physiology and neural pathways and like the reasons for all these things. Like I liked to know how and why. And it was so important for me in my own process to kind of understand in a really detailed way, not only for myself. Ultimately, it did start with things I was trying to work on in myself, but ultimately, as I stepped out into coaching and helping other people with their stuff, it really was so, it felt like a responsibility I had to know enough
Mm.
about how that I could help them figure out their way. Because just because something
Mm.
works for me doesn't mean it's exactly what somebody else needs. And so that personal touch and that personal understanding was so important for me to understand. And so I started with the science piece. And energy
Mhm.
stuff, I used to kind of be like, like I was super like, not against it. I was like, well, to each their own, but I can't understand it. So I wasn't open to it. And what helped, I had this, a breakthrough I had, again, in my own self, in case this can help anybody else who's, maybe sitting here like, I'd like to think that maybe this kind of stuff could help me, but I just don't, I can't allow myself. What did it for me was when I realized that, it's energy, it's forces that you can't see, you can't touch gravity, but it's this same forces, that the moon goes around the earth every day, every 24 hours, and the earth and the moon go around the sun every 365 days, or give or take. And to me, that's like, if energy and forces can literally move planetary bodies, how could they not have an impact on my cells, that like the little atoms, and my hand looks solid, right? But at its base, it's just a little cell that's 99% energy. There's barely any
Yes.
substance to it. And so of course energy is going to have an impact on me. So even my sciencey brain, that was resistant to this kind of work, that was something that helped me. So hopefully that helps anybody else that's listening, even if you already have a space of being open to it, that it could open you up even more to receive what Amanda and I are here to share with you, and support you all in having a happier life. And then a second thing, I love in your work, Amanda, how you, you're, first of all, you're absolutely, you have such an incredible sense of humor, which, when we're talking about like those deep, icky things that like, oh, why do I keep self-sabotaging? Yes, it's such a great picture. When we're talking, or when a client has the courage to say, I want more, I want to be a better version of myself, I don't want to keep repeating this pattern of struggle, or to keep procrastinating, or to keep getting in my own way, or to keep repeating those patterns that are keeping us stuck or causing us harm. And it doesn't even I find it doesn't even have to be like a major illness or a major crisis in your life. You're allowed to want a better version of yourself just because you know more is possible. You don't have to wait for a crisis to come along. And so I love when you help connect the dots in such a powerful way, with a sense of humor that can it makes people just be so at ease with you. And and so I'd love to hear your take on kind of like simplifying the whole concept of what is cellular memory, because that's one thing I know that when I see my clients struggling with stuff, that they're like, I don't know why I'm struggling with this. Sometimes it's older than they are. And that's not about
Yes.
blaming our parents or our grandparents. It's not about pointing fingers. It's just about like, what is this cellular memory stuff? I'd love to
Yeah.
have you share on that.
So basically, this is where the neurological concepts come in. If you've heard of the term neural pathways or synapses, so when we're little, the pathways start to be born, and I try and do it with, like, I always like, it starts here and then it starts to create a road. So this is peer-reviewed science that I'm now going to relay. What happens is, and this is the most exciting part about how emotional strength training can help, the neural pathways start being built. And when you're a child, you don't have points of reference like you do when you're an adult. You have no ability to go up to somebody and ask for guiding questions. So when you're a child and you have something happen, and it could just be something like mum drops the mixing bowl on the floor and the spoon flies everywhere, and you're in the kitchen and they go, oh, if you weren't making so much noise, I wouldn't have dropped that. So talking about blame, those sorts of things. And the child can't work out how they got blamed for that when they were sitting over there, maybe looking through the drawer of something else. We have a TV commercial over here where this man, do you remember the Wii game, the Nintendo, where you could play tennis or whatever with the thing? So he's standing in front of the TV and he goes to hit a shot and the thing flies out of his hand and hits the TV and smashes the TV. And then a baby that's just sitting up that giggled when he hit the TV said, oh, he turns around and said, lucky I've got you to blame. And I laughed at that. I thought that's a perfect example of when adulting are not coping, so they blame the easiest thing, which could be the child. So that's just one example.
I actually, just side note, I did a whole live stream the other day when I caught myself blaming the baby. So I'm just about 6 months pregnant, and I was like, I ate a cookie and I blamed the baby. The baby is not responsible for one of my food choices. And so I totally get it. And it's that the power of self-responsibility is a choice and it is an option, but it isn't actually very socially, it's so socially acceptable to blame outside circumstances and whatnot. So I love that example.
To be fair, that forms a really important part of the process. Like emotional strength training has an 8-step process that I follow, that I've realized over the 9 years that it's this same formula all the time. So the energy is that's going to happen. These things are going to happen. So one thing happens and the pathway starts. Then another thing happens and it goes a little bit further and a little bit further as life goes on. And then the synapses, which are like a net, they formulate pathways. And then from my mind, because I'm not a neurologist, but this is the picture that I see when I'm looking for stuff in people's energy system. So these pathways find a way. Now, there's lots of people who've done work, like Louise Hay on her book. I can't remember the name, but she spells out the different illnesses and things like that, or parts of the body, and connects the emotions. The one that I use the most now is this one, Secret Languages of the Body by Ina Sadal. This is, you can see how manky my book is. I just use it every day. Carolyn Myss is another one that's done a lot of work around this. And then you're looking at stuff like epigenetics and things as well, where things are stored. So there is science about memory being stored within the body. But the neural pathway thing is the key element, where when people are stuck, or when they feel worthless, or they keep attracting the same situations or the same people into life, what they found is that these neural pathways get formulated, and they when your story gets met. So as you grow, the child without any points of reference deals with something its own way, and it gets stored somewhere. Then as the adult comes, or the teenager comes, and your brain's developing, you're able to reason different things, or before your frontal lobe has finished growing, because that's one of the most interesting things I learned a long time ago. For girls, it's 23 to 24. For boys, it's now gone out to 26, 27 before your brain finishes growing, which helps to explain teenage behavior and young adult behavior that's a little bit irrational, because the brain's still developing. But what happens is these stories are being met, and then the new points of reference come in and they catastrophize energetically. Then when you're 30 or 40 and you've got something going on and you're being triggered, and like, I swear to God, children will trigger these memories in your life, and you'll go into the natural thing with parenting from fear is, I don't want my children to have what I had, that sort of thing, even if you did have a good life with your parents. And then when the story is met, all of the synapses light up, and your brain actually gives you a hit of dopamine. So if your neural pathways are attached to you're stupid and unworthy, and your story is met through your experiences, your brain goes, good girl, have some dopamine, well done. And then that's how people get stuck, because you actually get addicted to the dopamine hit because you
Yeah, and
feel
so
validated.
this is I love this. I find this so fascinating, and I just want to try a little bit of rephrasing what you said. Just I'm not like when your story is met. For like, I totally get what that means.
Okay.
Another way of looking at that might, or another way of understanding that might be a story that's repeating, a story that you go back to, and for some reason you can't break the bond with that story of I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. Like what Amanda's describing, when your story gets met, is meaning that there's some kind of evidence or proof that comes in, or some type of validation, whether that's somebody in your life that says, yeah, you aren't good enough, see? Or if you have a circumstance where, you know, you see social proof that you're a failure. But the
Yeah,
physiological response is literally a dopamine rush, which is an addictive pattern.
it is. And
Physiologically,
that,
it's part of drug addiction, it's part of all kinds of addictions, so it can be very hard to break that without awareness.
absolutely. And that feeling of being right. Oh, it's the, you know, that saying, the devil you know better you know than you don't. It's
Mm-hmm.
like the default setting. It's like, oh, even though there's this innate part of you that's sitting there going, no, no, no. And that's why for entrepreneurs or people that, same thing, anyone actually can get up, they, you know, you fall over, but you'll get back up, you'll dust your knees off, and away you go. And it, like, this is the thing, for example, if you're a business person, or if you're at work and you're getting looked over all of the time, there's safety from that reptilian brain point of view of knowing that, okay, that's, it's sort of like that. I feel like I want to sit back and go, oh, okay. But from the cellular memory point of view, when you have these different things show up, they do find, so say for example, nose, if your itchy nose starts itching or whatever, that's looking for love and attention. So if you're in a meeting and somebody keeps overlooking you or whatever, or if your nose starts itching, that's the way to be able to sit there and go, ow. All right. So that's the cellular memory creating a response as attached to your synapses that says, you're unlovable. No one is ever going to see me, even though you might go to speak up and they talk over you. When people get allergies like hay fever, always look, when somebody starts sneezing uncontrollably, it's easy for me. It's like, well, somebody in your life is irritating the bejesus out of you, so who is it? But then sometimes that can be you. You can be so tired of yourself, and this is what I call a crossroad. I'm so tired of my own story. I'm so tired of my own rubbish. And that's, you know, the defeat comes in. I want change. And that's why, and this is where, should I talk about the anatomy of awareness now? This is a good lead into the
Sure.
anatomy of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So anatomy of awareness is 3 levels. The top level is a triangle. Top part is something's wrong. You know something's wrong, but you can't put your finger on it. So level 2 of the anatomy of awareness is that you go and start finding. So you read books, you watch webinars, you seek out coaches, you might go to a counselor or a psychiatrist or psychologist or therapist, all those sorts of things. I have a really good agreement with Facebook. Every morning I had a deal with it. Whatever shows up in my thread, I need to know from an information point of view across whatever I need to do in the day. And every day it always pays off. So you gather information, okay? And sometimes that's enough. So when you go and see a counselor or a therapist, or even with a business coach or a life coach, you get to talk about what's going on. And that's a really, really important part of the process. And you gather your information. But the thing that people miss, and why I've built what I have, is it's the cellular awareness that people are not across. They don't understand. So another one of the most common things that people say to me when they work with me, because it's often the last attempt at something for them, is, I thought I'd dealt with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you have, but this is the cells. This is the stuff that's stuck in your body that I'm able to take out. And I do that because it's like a big dump. It's just, whoop, it's gone. And what you find is these things that have created the stories that gives you the dopamine hit stop having the feeling. So, a good indicator is when you talk about something and it still upsets you. If you makes you feel sick, that's a good reminder that there is cellular stuff still hiding in your body. And that proverbial onion thing comes into play, because I've experienced that myself this year particularly, thinking, but I can tell it feels different. So I'm like, oh, we got another layer. Yay. So it's like, but it's been a long time since the first layer showed up. Okay. Mm-hmm. But again, and how it felt different was it didn't upset me. It was just like, oh, okay, good. Let's do the thing. So I do my own work on myself.
The emotional strength training piece, like when we're able to support people in releasing the energetic attachment to a memory. It's not like you lose your memories of what happened. It's just that it no longer instigates fear or panic or anger or whatever emotional reaction you were having that was negative. And I'd love to bring up actually a question that one of our viewers asked yesterday when I was bringing it up. Shell Vera had asked, is it only traumas that have this cellular memory impact, or can it be good things too?
No, good. Yes, absolutely good.
I thought I love that question.
Great question. Mm-hmm. That's a great question. The most visceral response to a good memory is tingles up or goosebumps. That means truth. Okay? So the way I teach my crew is that if you have those tingles up or goosebumps, it's a good neural pathway firing up, going, do that. If it's down, it's dread. It's like, ugh. Okay. So if you are absolutely, good memories will always be in your body. It's like when people do happiness work, happiness is really important. The core of the success that you will find in your life is when you can tap into joy. And I did an energy session, and I cannot from the life of me remember how long ago it was, but I was told in this energy session is a cap full of joy is equivalent to a busload of happiness. And that's the joy, those chemical reactions you get in the brain when you have, and when you bring in emotional strength training, the icky cells that fire up the reptilian fight, flight, or freeze stop taking precedence, and then they come in. And this is where, when people talk about innate intelligence, so there's these, sometimes you just know, and then that's what this clears out. So you're not like schizophrenic brain of second guessing or because it's you learn to know that first feeling you get, which is tingles or goosebumps or the just that doesn't get overridden by the fear part of the brain that starts to warn you about everything because of all of your past evidence. And exactly what you said too, you don't forget these things, they just transform into wisdom, so that you're able to go forward and you can look at something, and even if you feel overwhelmed, you sit there and you go, where is the evidence that this is true for me now? And that's one of the biggest questions that you're able to do. It's like, am I telling myself the truth, or am I trying to yank all this crap from the past into my today to prevent me from doing what I felt in my body that I needed to do first?
I love that. Well, and that's one thing I find myself saying to my clients a lot is, I'm not interested in making problems where there aren't problems. And, there's a reason I consider myself a co-pilot, like a passenger in the car, like my clients are always the driver. They are in charge of and responsible for their choices. They, you know, they're always in charge of the gas pedal and the brake pedal. There's a reason that when you're driving a car, the windshield is the biggest window in the car. So where you should be spending most of your time looking, right?
Yes.
That being said, the rear view mirror is also very important. And it's a great tool to use to make sure, am I safe? Is there anything coming up behind me to bite me in the butt? And so that rear view mirror is, you know, kind of like what you were describing about like looking back. It's not about making problems where there aren't problems. It's about what might be still causing problems that I need to release. And I love what you just shared. Also, I feel like that's something everyone that's watching can start implementing in their life today is, oh, my body is informing me, giving me information about what I have good energy on and what I have bad energy on. So if you feel tingles up, like what Amanda just described, if you feel tingles up your body and you get those goosebumps and you're like, yes, like that's a positive experience, enjoy that. If you have energy going down or notice, like I guess even as you were describing it, I was like, oh, like, so like a sinking stomach or like dropping your shoulders, like that's a physical sign that there's something here that is worth you looking at and increasing your awareness about. So I love that. And I just want to say, Paul is here, Kirsten's here, Rocky's here, Rachel's here, Mandy, we found it helpful, Roxy, oh my goodness, hello everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for saying hello in the comments. Feel free to include your questions for Amanda about energy work, about emotional strength training. And if you're catching the replay, of course, leave your questions so that we can stay engaged and continue to support you guys. I'm finding all of this so fascinating. And I know I could talk to you for hours and hours about this stuff. You and I vibe so hard off of each other. It's a blast. And so I want to ask specifically, I guess, because I know for my clients, it's, you know, this whole concept of more and this whole concept of abundance. Like I teach it, it's not just about money. It's about receiving abundance in time, energy, and financial freedom. And again, that's a personal formula for each person, what that looks like. But how does emotional strength training, or how does cellular memory, how does cellular memory impact people that are in business or in their relationship? How does it impact their relationships or their self-sabotage patterns? I feel like we kind of touched on that, but I know that the pain points I see show up in, you know, people asking for my help most often is they are feeling stuck within themselves, the not good enough story, the self-sabotage patterns. And then in their businesses, like getting to a level of success, but again, not being able to go too far. And then in their relationships, those are the three things that really are pain buttons for them. So I know my audience is going to be super interested in those areas specifically. So if you want to add anything to that about your experience.
So one of the key factors is we tend to hold on to memories and things that have caused us pain and yank all of those situations into our now when things are going on and we go into a fear response. So you know that teaching that there's only two responses to anything, a love response and a fear response. When you're stuck, you're in fear response, and your brain, it's like a library, a catalog. Do you remember the old ways when we used to go to the library when we were kids and you would have to pull out the long drawer and you would find the card and you would look at the number and away you'd go? Your brain or your energy system does that in a way that you have something showing up and your brain goes, oh, I remember when that happened on Tuesday, the 3rd of September, 1983, and I can't have that happen again. But then you're not doing yourself any favors by doing that, but it's a completely normal human thing to do. We run through our catalog of fears and this energy system that brings it up And this is the trigger. This is that feeling of trigger where you go into panic. Feeling like, emotions like guilt, and that whole notion of obligation and things like that, it does track back to what you're taught as a child. And when I was doing, my development through this Elevate, like I started my business in 2009. Next Tuesday actually is my anniversary. And the one of my teachers used to present me with the notion that guilt and shame were the two useless emotions that there were for humankind. And I bought into that for a while, and then I realized, oh gosh, I don't know, last year, that guilt is such a fabulous gift when it shows up, because it's giving you the opportunity to see where the guilt is sitting, why the guilt is there, and to articulate it. So that when you're sitting there, and it's like, the best way I can describe it is the lies you're telling yourself based on old evidence versus the truth that is sitting right in front of you right now. And I say that they're lies based on old evidence because at the time it was probably true in that moment, but you are unhinging your capacity to step forward and get what you want because you keep lying to yourself. So, obligation's one of my favorite things. We're working on that in my group at the moment, where people are sitting there feeling like they're obligated, especially in business, to give discounts or to people please and go the extra mile because they might be having fraud complex and somebody, or, people pleasing from that point of view of, oh, they've said they want to work with me. Let me just organize my right kidney and I'm going to give that to you because I'm very grateful that you've come into my life and want me to help with business. The evidence that you pull into the front is, if you don't keep giving, people will leave, or if you don't keep doing this, everything's going to go to shit. And I forgot to check if we're allowed to say swear words, so I'm sorry about that. Anyway,
yes, so swears are allowed.
So the place that you get to is you just keep yanking everything to prove that you're right in not doing something, so that everything is never going to get to but you just are building a new body of evidence by sitting there asking yourself.
And I think one of when I bring up guilt and shame in the work I do with my clients as well, because they're such powerful emotions. And I agree with you. I think guilt serves a purpose. It can be misused when we hold on to it then longer than we need to. But I think guilt is, again, to me, it's a red flag. And how I mean, there's lots of different definitions out there, but I've found the most useful definitions in the work I do is, to look at guilt is feeling like I did a bad thing, whereas shame is feeling I am a bad person. And so when you can separate those two emotions, and I can say, is it guilt or is it shame that you're feeling right now? And we can look at, did you do a bad thing? Well, did you do a bad thing? Is that real? If you did, okay, can you go apologize? What can you do to make it right so that you can bring closure to it and release it? And then what you were talking about is how sometimes the lies get stuck, like, well, I did that bad thing, so now I am a bad person. They don't equal each other. They don't have to. But a lot of times, again, those neural pathways can form and go like, oop, yep, you're a bad person because you did this bad thing. Bad thing is, again, that's up for interpretation. Some people feel like it's a bad thing to charge their worth, or it's a bad thing to not people please, or they have that imposter syndrome that you mentioned, and or the fraud complex. And so I love that you addressed the topics, and I just got a low battery alert on my phone, and I do not want to lose this interview. So I'd love, did you want to speak any more on that topic?
No, we can move on.
Okay. I feel like it was you bring so much wisdom, and I appreciate how you always make my wheels start spinning, and a lot of validation, but also a lot of inspiration. So I love the concept. So we're talking about personal development, and people watching this can benefit by implementing this in their own life. But what about somebody that doesn't necessarily want to do individual energy work with a coach all the time? I know how I bring you in to support my Magic Zone Mastermind program is to address the energy of the group. So can you speak to the difference of, and I think another way to frame this for anyone that's listening is, I'm celebrating your decision to be here and to be watching Amanda and I, and to incorporate, what lands and what can improve your life. Take it, please use it. And if you need more support along the way, reach out to us. We're here for that if that's what you need. And there is a ripple effect of each of you that chooses to take responsibility for yourself. There is one thing Amanda says all the time is there is no harm in the energy of truth. So you following your truth and becoming the best version of yourself, that might make other people uncomfortable sometimes, but it's never going to hurt them. And I know that's one thing, like my mentorship with Jack Canfield, he has a similar approach where he says, you being the best version of yourself provides other people with an opportunity to maybe get uncomfortable. What they do with that discomfort, how they change because of it or don't, is their responsibility. So taking responsibility for your own emotional strength training will have a ripple effect on the next generation. Whether you're a parent or not, there are people watching. There are people watching whether you're living well or living less than well. And if you're living up to your full potential. So people are witnessing that, and it will have an impact, not just on the people that you know, but I believe on the whole world. I do believe that. And so I love, for those of you that are taking personal responsibility and personal choice to, get a little stronger with how do you handle your emotions, and how do you handle your response and your reactions, and notice when you're triggered. But as I find it fascinating that it's also, when you think about, when you see the culture of the world, the global energy of, global consciousness, and how that's just it feels like a whole nother animal, but we matter as individual parts of that. So how does that play out in your work?
That teaching like attracts like is a key element of group work. And when I am doing group work, I'm tapping into the collective whole, or greater whole. So, when anyone that's into star signs and astrology, you can get an astrology book that describes personality types based on what star sign someone is. And you're like, no way. It's like this same thing. It's this energy of similarities. And what I've learned with the group work is that everyone will bring what I call a matching energy into the space, but due to their life circumstances and the story and what they have lived in their life, the way they hear the information, their life, their brain can then interpret it to how that fits. So, for example, this year, one of the biggest patterns that I found in which I found quite early, which I was grateful for, was that where something is shifting from 1998. So 1998 was a catalyst year. And this year is 20 years since then. You should be, in air quotes, either at the top of your game of where you started in 1998, or you're nearly there, or if you're somebody that is nowhere near where you thought you would be, then, it's the same thing across the board. You've got the most work to do. And this is the other thing I've been conveying. We've got 3 months left of this year, and, there's a lot of people that are in really heavy kind of catastrophe energy this year. This is the next catalyst year, and this year will be setting the foundation for the next 20 to 30 years. So when you're looking at the collective whole, you have a great number of, and this is where the patterns start to show up for me, where I know that as a group or as humanity, we're going through similar things. And there's, like, Carolyn Myss is quite good for pointing out when there's lots of big natural disaster type things. So like there was an energy around globally that was attached to the 1919 flu epidemic that wiped out millions of people around the world. And if you do the work on what flu meant and what was happening at the time, it matches. And it's like it was the end of World War One. So when we look at today, and especially in a group situation, so all of the people that you bring into your group who want to work with you to up level in their business or get themselves on the right track in their business are going to have a matching energy. And that's one, you know, that teaching, look at the 5 closest people around you and see how they're showing up in life. Does that make you feel great, or does it make you feel like you need to go and hide in a corner and turn the lights off? This is the same. You are going to go and be around people that are on the same wavelength. So when I do my energy work from the group perspective that I do every Monday here in Australia, the energy knows what I'm speaking to. And the amount of times that somebody says to me, were you just talking to me this week? I'm like, yep, I was. Because your way of looking at the information is going to go clunk, clunk, clunk. And it's the same for anyone. You look at, has anyone ever been to a workshop or a retreat or something where you had to pair off and do work with somebody else? Every time you will find somebody organically and you start telling your story and it's like, we went through the same thing. Energy. It's this work takes formless stuff and brings it into form through information and knowledge to give you more information to take action next. That's the beauty of it. It's this formless, I don't know. It's the same thing. Like I've listened to a lot of astrologers now. When I say a lot, there's 3 key ones that I listen to. And they talk about sextiles and conjunct this, and I'm like, but they get past that part and they tell me what the emotions mean. And that's my gig. That's the extra information that I get. And because I'm in Australia, the people I listen to are in the Northern Hemisphere. So I get the information the day after I've already spoken it. And it's so validating for me knowing what the emotions and what is being shown globally. So to put also into relevance, I have a scientific brain as well. My goal one day is to have an institute that does this work so we can measure the responses medically speaking. So yesterday or the day before, when President Trump was talking to the UN people and he made a statement and they laughed at him, my immediate thought was, oh man, for the people that don't support him in the US, and this is not a political discussion, this is a showing a pattern thing. My scientific brain would love for the medical people in the world to go back and have a look in 10 years' time to see if there is a spike in anything to do like disease of the reproductive system, where a lot of shame and humiliation comes from. Because I know there's some people in my circles that were horrified and really embarrassed that the rest of the world was laughing at their president. And that's that global energy that I wonder if things will spike now in those kind of, because what it does is it buys into it fires up the synapses, it fires up the memories in your cells, thinking of other parts in your life where you've felt shame and humiliated or guilt or anything like that, which is then where your immune system gets depleted and you become sick. But the emotional immune system does also include sabotage. So that could have sparked a trigger in people that if you speak your truth, and that's the point, Donald Trump believes what he's saying. It's not for anybody else to sit there and question his truth. So if you're sitting there speaking your truth in your business or with your clients, or you've just started a campaign to try and get clients, and you've got that example where you're connected to, you know, all of my American friends love their country. That's the one thing that's the most prolific, is you love being American. And that's same with Australians. We do the same. So when you have your leader being humiliated in a global context, the triggers within you can go. So you've got this evidence now. When you speak your truth, somebody might laugh at you, even if you do not identify with Donald Trump.
Well, you know what's funny
So
is, like, even for me, like, I'm like, oh my God, did you just start talking about Trump on this live stream? Like, oh boy, it's such a can of worms. Like, I'm having like a physical reaction to, like, I don't want to talk politics. Like, and so I love how it's about, but connecting that our individual reaction to global events, whether it's politics, whether it's, you know, a global competition, whether it's a crisis, a tsunami, a hurricane, whatever this global event or issue is that's in there, it's our personal reaction to it, that it's all connected. And ultimately, what we can take responsibility for our emotional strength training around, okay, what's my reaction? What can I look at in myself? How can I become a better version of myself through what I'm witnessing and what I'm experiencing? And the fact that, you know, it is all tied together. So, and I know that you offer, I just want to kind of like invite you guys to stay connected with Amanda and I, because this is like such, like we're scratching the surface here. And so for some of you, this might be like, whoa, that was so sciencey and technical, and like I'd have never even heard of half this stuff. So welcome to the woo world, and science is part of it. So woo and science do intersect. And I'm just really, I think I'm down to like 5% battery. So I want to make sure that we let you know how to stay in touch with us. I know, Amanda, how would you like to kind of like bring this interview to a close and send out the world, send out our viewers into the world with what we've brought to the table tonight?
Thank you. So, as I mentioned, my work is a wonderful support to everything. Nothing that I say or do across any aspect of life, this will not isolate you from what you're already doing. It adds to it. What you're doing should work better when you bring in this emotional strength training work. And I've developed a service, a product called eSchool Unplugged. It's for people that don't want a group, because, you know, we're in so many and things like that. You just want the information. So if you go to, and I'll type the link for you, but if you go to amandafoy.com.au/eSchool-unplugged, and it takes you to a page that will describe, you get an energy session every Monday from Australian Eastern Standard Time, so Sunday night while you're asleep. You turn this thing on, it's 45 minutes to an hour, depending how much information is coming through. You sit and listen to it, you make notes, you get a worksheet as part of your process as well, make notes, and then you use that information to implement, and it's a healing. So whatever, it's talking to your cells to get rid of things, and it's very gentle. I operate from the place of, I will not have healing crises in this work. My motto is make the journey gentle, because we've got enough stuff outside that's causing us to drop to our knees.
And so this is basically, people can get you in their inbox of basically an energy session from you every Monday morning. So if you guys please put the link in so people that are interested can find that. And I know for those of you that want to learn more about what I have going on, you can private message me through the Happier Lives Tribe here, or if you want to learn more about my Magic Zone program, which is dedicated to introducing you to the next level version of yourself and helping you make that your reality. So we, you know, double your income. We get you into a place of alignment with your relationships, and we look to also serve, doing this in a way that is how you are designed to operate in this world, so that we get rid of the stress, we get rid of the trying to do it, you know, be like everybody else. You get to be yourself as you achieve this. It's very exciting work. And you guys can find more at bethperry.com, or just stay involved on this Happier Lives Tribe page. And we'll be bringing lots more inspiration and education to you guys through this vehicle as well. So, oh, and thank you for typing, Amanda. I don't multitask very well when I'm like in my like excited zone here visiting with you. So I appreciate your time. So yes.
Can I share a quick story? One of the women
Sure.
in my group had, this is an effect of emotional strength training based on what she does. So she works in counseling and things like that. She had a property that she's had on the market for donkeys for so long, it's not funny, and it just wouldn't sell. And they kept coming in with stupid offers and stuff like that. So with the techniques that she's taught through this process that I live and breathe every Monday, she was able to say to me something about what she could visualize in this property. And then I said to her, have you thought of taking that out? So she took it out and she got an offer in 3 days from 2 people, and it's gone.
I love that.
So that's what I mean about the support. This thing had been on the market for 18 months. I taught her how to do the visualization, what's there that's not supposed to be there, take it out, put the intentions in the group, and left me to do the clear out work. And then within 3 days she got 2 offers, and then they had to keep going until the top one won, and it's gone.
Yeah, and I know I can actually I'll speak to the power of your work, even from the place of you know, sometimes when I've been part of your group sessions or had a private session with you, it's not always about, I don't need to necessarily know everything that needs to go away. I love that my reality is always a sense of clarity, a sense of relief, a sense of release of, so it's like, I don't even really need to know what it was that specifically went away. I'm fascinated still by the what and the how and the science of all that stuff, but it's also such a blessing to be supported in that way. And I know that it's, you know, the level of clarity that I have, and for especially anyone who's watching, who's in a service-based role in your life, whether you're serving as a parent, whether it's your career, or whether you have a business as a coach or a mentor, or you're a service professional like a photographer, and you're providing an experience. You know, it's not limited, but if however you're serving the world, you know, how do you show the world love on a daily basis? You can serve at a higher level when you are well served, when you allow yourself to receive that support. So I encourage you all to please stay connected with us. I invite you to participate in this group, and look forward to seeing how your lives become happier. You know, happy is an inside job, and it's our job to unfluff ourselves in order to become the best version of ourselves. So emotional strength training is a great tool that Amanda has designed. And I'm so grateful for the work you do in the world, Amanda, and for having you in my life, and appreciate you spending the time with us here on this page. So I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
I would talk about this. Oh yes, talk about this all day if I could. Just say yes. Thank you for having me. I'm really glad that you asked me along. Like I said, I love evolved coaches. This is like lighting me up. So thank you.
Well, I look forward. I know you and I'll be speaking with you soon. And to the rest of you that are watching or catching the replay, thank you for staying with us. And we wish you happiness for the rest of your day or night, wherever you are in the world. Mwah. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.